This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's community access radio station Plains FM 96.9 and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Coming up next on Plains FM is Find Your Bliss.
Good morning, everybody. It is Rebecca Davison, intuition coach and founder of the Intuitive Life Academy. Welcome to the Find Your Bliss show, back in the studio after the end of Corona. Hi, Kylie. Just saying hi to Kylie, who's joined me on Facebook. Folks, I broadcast about the first 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more like 40 minutes of the show on my Facebook page, which is the Intuitive Life Academy. Oh, thank you. That's lovely. Kylie saying I look very beautiful today. That's very nice of you, Kylie. Makeup does wonders, doesn't it? So welcome to the show, folks. The Find Your Bliss radio show here on Plains FM every 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. It's great to be back in the studio in the physical space because, of course, of the coronavirus quarantine. We haven't actually been able to be present here. So great to be back with Laura, the producer here as well, and come into the studio. So today we're going to talk about the power of presence and why this is such a massive key in terms of creating freedom in your life. So probably a really good place to start is to ask yourself, how present do you think that you are? Now, often what happens, right, in coaching, we get asked questions that we never really ask ourselves. And that's the point of getting coached, right, is to bring more awareness and focus and clarity to the things that are important but that we often miss. So even asking yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, even over the last week, how present do you feel that you have been? Maybe it's been like a 6 out of 10, for example. You're pulling a number out of thin air, but that's often the intuitive response, is the number that comes forward without us even thinking about it. So say that you're at a 6 out of 10. You want to start asking yourself, why is that? Why is it that I'm only a 6 out of 10 in terms of becoming present? And therefore, of course, you have to ask yourself, what does it mean to be present? And for me, being present means that you have spaciousness in the present moment because you are in it. You're not thinking about something else. And this is, we're going to talk about this in depth, right? Because of course what happens, life gets really busy, you have a to-do list, and then it's really easy for your attention to be pulled and take you out of your body almost and into the external world. So if you're feeling grounded and have a lot of clarity and focus and you're feeling good, and then of course we have to interact with the externals, right? Like we have to get the kids to school, or we have to make sure that they've had breakfast or that they've brushed their teeth. And then we're starting to deal with the interface between our field of reality and then the external world and making sure that things happen. And this is where people can lose their presence really quickly and really easily and can end up getting really frustrated, right? Like a number of times I've heard people say when it comes to their time, I don't have time for that, or there's not enough time in the day, or I never get anything done. So I think one of the first things to remember when it comes to presence and being able to be more present is realizing that you always have a choice. And a lot of people will go into resistance about this because they feel like they don't have a choice. It is actually a choice to get your kids to school on time, right? You can choose not to. But people go, but I have to because of other people's expectations. Bringing the focus back to yourself, realizing I do actually have a choice in this moment. I could choose to get the kids to school earlier. I could choose a different job so I didn't have to drop the kids off 15 minutes earlier or 15 minutes later. You always have a choice, and this is hugely important. And one of the things that I help people with a lot, which is their personal power and authority, to realize that you are choosing everything in your reality. And if you don't like what is showing up in your reality, you get to choose again. But of course, what happens is we lose our power to externals, and the world is kind of set up this way. It doesn't take much to look at the external world, government, advertising, marketing, how it's set up, how our collective consciousness is often inundated with information and images about how life is supposed to be. And we subconsciously adhere to this and then go, this is what my life needs to look like for my life to be great. Instead of actually taking our power back and going, well, actually, what looks great for me? So really, and again, you can see that there's way more authority in that. And authority to me doesn't mean dominion over somebody. It means being the author of your own life and how you want it to look and how you want to create it. So first question to really start would be, do you want to be more present in each moment? And if so, why? Why would that be beneficial for you? Do you think it might create more peace, more calm, more spaciousness, a bigger sense of freedom? And we'll talk a little bit about past and future as opposed to the present, which they always say, right, as a gift. But to be in that space of understanding the power that you have in terms of creating your reality. And a huge amount of this, and it sounds so simple, but it can be quite hard to master, is the fact that you have a choice. You have a choice where you place your attention. Now, if anybody's followed Abraham Hicks, you'll probably be very familiar with this in terms of what they call the vortex, being in the vortex, which is essentially an upswinging, expansive, feel-good vibration. Everybody really wants to be in the vortex. They want to live their life there. And the hardest thing for human beings to really grasp and assimilate is the fact, and I know it's shocking but true, that it's a choice. It is a choice in every single moment. It's a choice when you get frustrated with somebody. It's a choice when you feel like, it's a choice in how you respond to it in terms of the fact that the kids have to be at school at 8:30. You can make that an awesome thing, or you can make that a negative thing, depending on your own inner voice and the conversation that you're having with yourself. Is it great to be able to drop the kids off, or do you find it a source of frustration? Do you go into a negative thought pattern which contracts your energy, and therefore you end up resenting it more and more and more every day, instead of actually going, I've got a choice. So what choice am I going to make in regards to doing this? I could choose to have a better attitude. I could choose to get somebody else to drop them off. I could choose to have a different approach to this. But we have to ask questions to really be able to create that. And we are way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. We want to open up all those realms of possibility to have a new solution come in to be able to create a different reality, and therefore create more spaciousness in our present moment, that we can actually enjoy every single moment rather than feeling like, I know for a lot of people life feels like a bit of a battle, right? You're constantly having to go into environments or situations where, and again, it can be daunting, especially if you're sensitive or an empath, coming up against other people's energy or other people's junk or attitudes or behaviours, and learning how to navigate your way through that and still often stay sane, right? If you're really sensitive to energy, it can be easy to be present to other people and pick up their emotions, their behaviours, their attitudes. But remembering, right, bringing it back to self. We have to constantly do this, and this is one of the first things of intuitive development, is bringing the focus and the attention back to yourself and asking yourself, what choice am I making in this moment? Or what do I want to choose? I put this in my stories just yesterday. The question that you have to ask yourself, is this adding to or creating the life that I wish to live? Are you constantly asking yourself if what you're doing is adding to the life that you wish to create? And you're the only person who can do that, because you're the only person who's having your experience edge of your interaction with reality as you know it. So you're the only person who can really ask yourself that question and go, is what I'm doing adding to a great life experience, or is it taking away? And again, this comes back to where we place our attention. and how to be in the present moment. And I've talked about this before, about how if you're really in the present moment, in every single moment, every moment can become a blissful delight and exchange of energy with our reality. I've talked about how if you're really present, you can wash the dishes and have it be a sublime experience because it's where you're choosing to place your focus. If you're placing your focus on the news and external energy, and again, that's a whole other conversation, right? Especially with what's happening in the world with Corona. There's been so many conspiracy theories that I've seen, especially on lots of different levels in spiritual terms. And yes, there is some truth to some of that, but I'll talk about that perhaps another day. We've got Black Lives Matter issue happening. It is a very turbulent time at the moment. But what we have control over is what we are choosing, even if it's choosing to look at our unconscious bias in terms of how we're showing up in relationship to other people. But first and foremost, when it comes to the power of presence, where are you choosing to place your attention? If you're washing the dishes, are you choosing to place your attention on the feel of the water, on the bubbles, on the experience of what it feels like to wash the dishes? You can actually bring beautiful, divine energy into every moment of your life, but it is a choice, and a lot of people will argue for their limitations instead of actually going, okay, well, what's it going to take for me to choose that and therefore have that experience? What they will say is, but you know what's happening out in the world there, people are in conflict, people are hurting. Again, it is a choice where you choose to place your attention. Now, I had this conversation actually with a client a wee while ago, and she was like, well, is it negligent as such to not look at the bigger picture? And you have to ask yourself, and I always come back to this, which was really great advice from Wayne Dyer. And he said, you don't help sick people by getting sick. And you don't help people to get rich by being poor. So the best thing that we can really do for anybody who's in distress and conflict and doubt and fear is to be a beautiful vibration. And to be a beautiful vibration, we need to be very aware of our own inner reality and the relationship that we're having with ourselves. And that is one of the best things that you can do for reality. For others, is to be the happiest person that you know. Right. Hello, folks. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Kylie. Oh, you guys are great. Is it Dinesh? Hi, Dinesh. How are you? Yes. So you are the person who is choosing what kind of reality you are having. And again, I understand that sometimes it can feel like life is pressing in against you. It can feel like circumstances are out of your control, which often they are, which is why it's even more imperative to really have faith and belief in a higher power, because otherwise life can end up feeling pointless. Right? It can be like, what is the point of this life experience? But the point really is for you to have the experience of life and to choose what you wish to experience. And a lot of people will, they'll get into the downward spiral and they'll say, but this has happened, that this has happened, that this has happened, so therefore I can't be happy. I'll give you a great example. My dad actually passed away on the 28th of May, so it's very, very new. And, it's been an intense experience for lots of different reasons, and I'm probably not really ready to talk about it too much. But also, too, I realise fully that I have a choice in regards to how I live my life moving forward. Of course, I miss him and his physicality, and of course, it's been incredibly sad in moments, but I also too realise that I have a choice in regards to how I respond to my experience of it. And to honour my dad, my choice is to be the happiest person that I know. Because being happy feels good, right? Why would you not choose that for yourself? If literally your life came down, like if you passed over and you got to a point where you're just like, the universe said, the universe is impartial, right? The universe still loves you, whether you choose to be miserable or you choose to be happy. Sometimes people can feel like being miserable is not a choice, and it totally is, right? You are choosing that. You're choosing to allow yourself to be in that vibration. You're choosing that as opposed to thoughts, words, energy that is an uplifting vibration. And I know sometimes people can really argue for this and go into this stance of, this is what's happened to me. You don't understand. And it's like, yes, I do understand, because if I told you my life experience, maybe you'd be shocked and horrified. But I still have a choice in regards to what's occurred. I still get to choose that, and so do you. And this is the thing, right? We're in the Intuitive Mastery at the moment, which is my pretty much year-long program for people who want to become an intuitive coach. One of the things we're doing at the moment is archetypes. And one of the archetypes is quite common in reality, of course, is the archetype of the victim. Now, the victim can actually, like everything, there's a pro and a con. And the pro, really, of being a victim is recognizing that there's healing that needs to take place. It's recognizing that you have wounding. And that is the gift of being a victim. So you can recognize that, so you can see that within inside of yourself, that there's something that needs your loving attention. And when you give your loving attention to it, then you can shift the energy into a higher vibration. Now, of course, the con of the victim energy is if you get stuck there and then you start thinking that that is what reality is. No. And of course, you can see how this comes back to the power of the present moment, because all of those things often connected to the victim energy will be connected to the past. This is what happened to me. I had this experience when I was 14. This is what happened to me when I was 21. I had this amazing love affair and then it ended when I was 23. Whatever it is, right? Our subconscious remembers everything that has happened, but we are the ones who attribute meaning to it. We go, oh, that person doesn't love me, so therefore there's something wrong with me. And if this is happening consistently, this can start creating a belief within us. And then that belief starts shaping our reality, because if we're going out going, okay, there's something wrong with me, then we're going to be holding that energy and belief within ourselves in our interaction with others. And inevitably it will present itself. And then there's part of you that goes, oh, I was right. Look, this is what's happened, so therefore there is something wrong with me. It's almost like you, what you get is that confirmation bias or something, where you get that confirmation that your bias is true, even though it's not, right? So, or you don't need to choose it to be. And this is why we need to be so aware of our beliefs and be able to come back in the moment and check ourselves. And this is one of the first things that we do through intuitive development, is start becoming very aware of the relationship that we're having with ourselves. And how do we do that? We have to ask ourselves questions. We have to go, hey, how I'm feeling right now. Ask yourself, how are you feeling? If 10 was excellent and 1 was like, I feel like rubbish, how do you feel? Me, I'm probably about a 6.5, which is probably not bad given, that my dad's just passed, right? There's a bit of room for improvement there, but here I am showing up, making the choice to be here, making the choice to run energy that is uplifting, making the choice to share information that is beneficial. That's my choice, realizing that you have a choice too. So asking yourself more often, what am I choosing in this moment? How am I choosing to respond to what is occurring? And often too, right, when it comes to interacting with other people, what we want to do is we want to be very aware of our perception. We don't want to make other people the villain. We want to ask questions and ask yourself, I wonder why they're behaving that way. Maybe they feel insecure. Maybe they have fear or doubt, which is inevitable if somebody's behaving in a way which is kind of unkind, mean, or a bit, cruel. There will inevitably be some energy there where that person's not loving themselves, because if they were loving themselves, their energy would be uplifting and expanded, and they would be able to offer you that energy too. So you can see more than ever how important it is. Like, a lot of people think that they don't have any sway in terms of what they can do to change the world. The best thing you can do to change the world is change yourself. right? To be in that space where you're going, this is the best contribution that I can make. The best contribution I can make is to heal my own wounds. The best contribution that I can make is to choose to really be authentic. And that's the intuitive pathway, is authenticity, because what happens when you're choosing the intuitive pathway is you start learning what it is to drop all the masks. You start learning that, I've really noticed when I hang out with that person that there's part of me that wants to kind of put a little defense mechanism between me and that person. And recognizing that and noticing that and asking yourself questions about that and going, I wonder why I do that. I wonder what about that person makes me feel a little bit defensive, or I want to withdraw. And this is where intuition's so important, right? Because we always want to be loving and therefore be open-hearted. But however, we also have choices in respect to who we spend time with. You know, you can still be loving and choose not to spend time with somebody. It doesn't mean that you have to, and this is again, a lot of empaths and intuitives and sensitive people. And it's a very childlike quality too, right? To go, excuse me, to be in that space of thinking, I have to love everybody, you know, and I have to be present to everybody. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes the most loving thing to do, especially with a person who's wounded, or when I've seen this quite a bit in my work with people who don't choose to grow. Right? Like my clients aren't usually those people, but I've seen it with people who are attracted to the work, but they don't necessarily jump in because they're frightened, or maybe they're not ready, because spiritual development is definitely a very personal process. However, with people who don't choose to grow, you know, it becomes very difficult often to be present to them when one of your highest values is growth, right, or contribution. So it doesn't mean that you don't love them. It just means that you're not necessarily choosing to match their vibration. And sometimes there's a choice involved in that. It might be minimizing your time that you spend with them. It might be going, actually, that's not a good fit for me, so I'm choosing not to spend time with them at all. And again, that's your individual choice, but that's why intuition is so important, to be discerning and to always make the most loving choice for yourself in the first instance, and therefore for them. Because maybe the most loving thing that you can do in that moment is actually not spend time with them, because it's going to bring you pain and the other person pain. So starting to be really aware. And of course, do you think that contributes to how you feel in your present moment? Your body is always looking for your conscious mind to protect it. I'm going to say that again. Your body's always looking for your conscious mind to protect it, i.e., your body will tell you if it doesn't want to do something. If you are open to hearing it and listening it, and again, this is developing your intuition, your body will tell you immediately. It'll go, I don't want to be here, or I feel uncomfortable, or this feels threatening, or something's not right. That's your intuition. We need to learn what it is to become sensitive enough to hear that, and then to use our conscious mind to go, okay, well, I need to take an action step here. Maybe it's leaving. Maybe it's saying something. Maybe it's removing myself. Maybe it's kind of tuning into the energy and going, what is going on here, and what do I need to be made aware of so I can actually keep myself safe? So again, and what will happen is when you follow through, your body relaxes, because it sent you the information, you've received it, you've asked some questions about it from the conscious mind, and then you're taking action on it. And then your body goes, right? It can relax. So it's so important. And again, this is a very subtle, perhaps, skill set, but it's so important. You know, more and more and more, I think it's fair to say, especially after what's happened with Corona, people are recognizing how sensitive we all really are, and how much energy really does make a difference. And one of my kind of personal creeds is first do no harm, but take no crap. Right? So where's the balance, the sweet spot between not harming other people, right? Because we don't want to inflict our pain or our wounds on others. That is not, you know, number one rule of spiritual growth is take responsibility for your own wounding. and be aware of not projecting that onto other people. However, it's all about the interface, because the interface within ourselves and the external world. And the external world is always our relationships with other people, or our relationship with the collective consciousness, or our relationship with even, I wouldn't say divine realms, because that's already within you, but definitely your interpretation of reality. So we want to get really, really good at being really, really aware so we can be very present. Now, let me put the power of presence in a different way for you. I want you to think about a time or a place where somebody gave you their undivided attention. That they looked into your eyes, they were completely there for you. It helps you to feel safe, relaxed. It feels magical, right? Where it's somebody that you like, respect, admire, and they are really there for you. They're not looking at their phone, right? They are not checking their emails, right? I mean, I could do a whole show on that, right? If it's an act of self-love, you don't sit there if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody else and then determine that there's something else that's more important. No, and if you have done this, don't beat yourself up about it, but be aware. It's not cool. If you're having a conversation with another person and you're sitting there checking your phone, that's not being present. That's not being present to what is. And I tell you why people struggle with being really present is because when you are very present, that's when your emotions come up. Right? When you are very present to this moment, you are very aware of what you're feeling. Because often what will happen is people will spend so much time and energy avoiding the present moment because they know that on some deeper level, that if I'm really present to myself, oh my goodness, then it's going to be the opportunity for my intuition to bring up a message or to bring something to my awareness or to pop something to the surface that needs to be addressed. And often we have fear about our ability to be able to cope with that. But I'm here to let you know that you absolutely have what it takes. This is a gift. This is how your soul communicates with you when you create the space and the information comes to the surface. You absolutely have what it takes to be able to deal with it. Maybe you need a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance in terms of discerning it. But once you know how to do this as a skill set, you have it for life. And you can literally change your world, because then you start creating a different relationship with yourself and it becomes safer to be more present. And the flip side of this, of course, folks, is people who avoid being present to themselves at all costs, which the worst form of that, of course, is addiction. Addicted to changing your state. Whatever it is that you're addicted to, it's about changing your state, right? Often about checking out, going into distraction or to unawareness. So whether it's shopping, smoking, eating, sex, alcohol, drugs, it doesn't necessarily have to be, it can be benign or it can be malignant, it can be anything on the spectrum. But addiction, the basis of addiction is always about wanting to change your state, and feeling the discomfort that often arises when we're starting to learn what it is to become present so that information can come up. Because why does this information come up? Because it's your soul's way of showing you, sweetheart, there's something that's looking to be healed. My darling, it's the universe making itself known to you. My darling, let's shift this contracted energy out of your reality so you can actually enjoy your life more, so you can realize how powerful you are, so you can make better choices, so you can actually be liberated and experience more freedom in your present moments. So even asking yourself again that question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how present are you? Because what you're actually being present to is yourself and your relationship with yourself and your own emotions. So that's why even starting the process, a very simple way to do this, and I've talked about this since I've started this radio show, which is ask yourself how you're feeling and then actually listen to the answer. Like, how are you really feeling? And often too, like people will go, oh, there's no point, or emotions aren't important. But you think about it, what you want at the end of the day, in a nutshell, is to feel good. And whatever circumstance you think that you're choosing, the middle of that, the nucleus, is to feel good. You're choosing those things because you believe that they're going to contribute to you feeling good. So what we want to learn how to do is, how do I create an internal state of being that feels good no matter what, right? No matter what my external circumstances are. What is your internal relationship with self like? And how do you make it better if it's not great at the moment? Because what will happen eventually is you'll create a new normal. You'll create a norm where you are consistently feeling good because you've literally trained yourself to be that way by asking questions, by interrupting your own thought processes, by disregarding crap thought processes, by bringing in new thought processes. Now, your thought process, of course, is one aspect of it. We talk about the tip of the iceberg. The subconscious, of course, is the deeper aspect. That's why we need to go into all the filing cabinets in your subconscious and start doing some decluttering, because that holds a lot more energy and weight than just your conscious mind. Because, of course, this is your lifetime. And, of course, in spiritual realms, it can be lots of other lifetimes as well, in terms of what you've experienced and what you've made those things mean and what that means about you as a person. So if you're a person, for example, right now who's showing up and you're not feeling powerful, even starting to ask yourself questions like that. A great question to ask would be, well, how powerful do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? Maybe it's a 2. What would it feel like to be at a 10 out of 10? And when you ask that and you get the contrast, even if you're not there yet, what it's going to start to do is going to start to show you all the energy that needs to be shifted and released. You can start asking yourself, well, why don't I feel powerful? Well, when I was 12 and Mary Sue said that to me when we were on the swings and it made me feel dreadful and I formed this limiting belief about myself. That's the kind of thing that needs to be released. So you can be present in the moment with yourself and actually enjoy the relationship that you're having with yourself. The most important relationship that you will ever have is with yourself. So number one tip so far, what does it take to cultivate your relationship with yourself? And of course, that's what spiritual work is. By knowing your true self, which is divine, infinite, radiant, glorious. And of course, letting go of anything that stands in the way of that. But number one tip, if you're just wanting to learn how to be more present, is what does it take to put your phone down when you're having a conversation with somebody else? It fascinates me too, right? Like I said, I didn't have my phone for like 5-6 weeks while we're in quarantine, and I didn't really miss it. I always have my phone on silent. I would recommend it. You know why? Because even if you get a text message and the noise goes off, it interrupts your present conversation. What you're essentially saying to the people around you is, my phone and this connection is more important than the one that I'm having with you right now. So turn your phone onto silent. A lot of people go, oh, no, I can't do that because I've got children. What would it take to set a different ringtone or put it on vibrate, etc.? But again, we can be addicted to this. Can you see how social media becomes another way that we're looking to change our state? And it can be really easy to get sucked into that because everybody's doing it. But remembering you have the power to make those choices. So, folks, I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook now because I can get so wrapped up in it that I go for way longer than anticipated. Thanks for joining in, folks. It looks like there's a few people online there. Tanya, Shilpi, hi Jody, hi Vicky. I'm sending you guys lots of love. And again, always on a Thursday at 9 a.m. It was great to be back live. See you later, folks. So just finishing up on Facebook there in terms of sharing about the power of presence and what it really means to develop that relationship with self where you feel good. Like literally at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants, right? You want to feel good. You want to be in that space of going and experiencing a relationship with yourself that feels really good. And it's so personal. right? It is so intimate because it's all about you. And that's what I love about doing spiritual work, is that I'm a facilitator, but I get to witness people realizing how amazing they are. I get to see people experiencing the waking up to their true self, to their infinite nature, to their divine self. And again, Abraham Hicks would talk about getting into the vortex, which is really one part of the process. I mean, getting into the vortex, and which again is about an upward momentum of feel-good energy, which is really about expanding your vibration and therefore allowing the universe to move through you in a much bigger way. And when we have the courage and grace to do that and get to know ourselves, what's the saying from the Bible? Something about my mansion has many rooms. It's actually in one of the U2 songs, right? My house has many rooms, or my mansion has many rooms, which is essentially, God's way of saying is that there are infinite possibilities, right, and infinite realities available to us. But we have to choose to step into that space and go, I have a choice, so what is it that I'm choosing? And be very aware of that choice on a day-to-day basis and choose the energy of that choice. So if you want to, there's been some really interesting awarenesses that have come up for me since my dad's passed in terms of what does the rest of my life look like, and maybe living overseas more, and again, what does that feel like? Where would I go? What would I do? How do I want to feel? And that's what it's about at the end of the day, folks. Your emotional body is one of the biggest driving forces. Emotional body meaning your emotional energetic field. If you have a look at energy fields, look it up on the internet, you'll see that you have multiple energy fields. Your physical body is one of them. You have a mental body, you have an auric field, you have an emotional field, you have celestial fields, because you're an infinite being in a body. So check it out to raise your awareness. But your emotional body is a huge driving factor in terms of your reality. And this is why I help people a lot in terms of recognizing that they always have a choice when it comes to their emotions. And if you're continually experiencing an emotion, that is not feeling great, then realizing that you are continually choosing that. And you have a choice. And again, this is where people go into a lot of resistance because they feel like they don't. They feel like life is happening to them. But this is essentially where we start to have a spiritual awakening, where we go, actually, I have way more power than I've been giving myself credit for. I need to kind of break down this paradigm of where I'm thinking that I don't. And then I need to start expanding my energy so I can live from a different perspective. And one of my spiritual teachers, Aaron Abke, says it best that all suffering comes from too limited a perspective. We need to expand our energy, expand our mind, expand our awareness to be able to go to those places where we can experience more. So number one tip, folks, change your relationship with your phone. Do what I did and go without it for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It was glorious, What is really important, what people are craving, and my beautiful friend Dale Hunt talks about this a lot, which is the 6 human needs. The first one being, of course, certainty, and then uncertainty/variety, because we're contradictory creatures, right? We love our daily rituals, and then we also love things to be different, and it's spontaneous and new and adventurous. The next one, of course, is significance, love and connection. And the 2 spiritual needs, of course, are growth and contribution. But for love and connection, yes, we can experience that to a point through our phones. Like, life has changed so much from the days when I was a kid, and it was all about personal. Like, if you wanted to meet up with somebody, you had to ring them and then agree to meet at a certain time somewhere, or else you wouldn't meet them, right? We didn't have cell phones. So realizing too, right, if you're craving love and connection, you want to throw your phone out for a bit and actually go meet with people, especially now, right, because we've had Corona, so it's been forced on us in terms of having to isolate, which is a great way of helping us to appreciate what we do have and how important those connections are. right? And also too, right? Again, the most powerful thing that you can do in terms of presence is recognize how comfortable are you with your relationship with yourself. You know, do you have the courage to make choices that other people might seem are weird? Right? Like I know a lot of people from their level of awareness and reality might think it's incredibly strange that it's a week today since my dad's funeral. And here I am on the radio wanting to share information about how you can create a different reality and how you can be happy, literally, no matter what. You know, have I been happy this whole time that my dad's passed? Of course not. But I also recognize that moving forward, being happy is a choice. And I'm very fortunate that I have the psychic skills and gifts to be able to communicate with my dad easily in spirit. It's been a little bit weird, kind of shifting our relationship from a physical one to a spiritual one. But, you know, I feel his presence and it's very calming. It's very comforting, and I don't, you know, even though his physicality isn't here, I definitely feel him in spirit, and, you know, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have that level of awareness, that I can actually communicate with him on that level, so I can experience that. But also, too, that is the gift of spirit, is realizing that only love is real, and love never dies, and he's still with me. And again, you know, like you might listen to this and think, oh, that's just a platitude that you've made up. But again, thinking that is also a choice. You know, if I can feel it and that's my experience and that's my reality, then that's good for me because it brings me joy. And I think often a lot of times is what I've seen is that people think that happiness is really unsophisticated and really, what's the word? Kind of stupid. Like if you're happy that you're stupid somehow, that if you're happy that you're not aware, that if you're happy that you're doing spiritual bypass, that if you're happy that you're not really feeling your feelings, you know, it's such an interesting place to be when people go, misery's real, or, you know, you need to feel bad to really experience life. Or, you know, and again, this is the thing, this is what's so powerful, is it's actually a choice, and it's a choice that you get to make. You know, I've had my moments where I've bawled my eyes out about my dad, like even what I would call keening or wailing, you know, to release the energy from my body. I am very present to myself and my emotions, so I can do that no problem. And then the energy moves through, and then, you know, 5 minutes later, I'm fine. I don't judge myself. I don't make it wrong. I don't say, oh, it's a big deal or it's a drama. It just is what it is. That's my experience. But that also doesn't mean 5 minutes later, I can't be like a 9 out of 10 in terms of happiness, or I can't be a 10 out of 10, right? In terms of experiencing joy and bliss and going, yes, that's what I want to create for myself. So let's talk a little bit more about the power of presence in terms of letting go of the past. You know, I want you to think about this. How much time do you spend thinking about the past? Now, this is a big one for people who are caught up on a love relationship. You know, if you have had a love relationship from the past that you still feel very sentimental about, or still yearn for, or, you know, a loss of somebody, you know, you can often go back to that place wanting that feeling, that experience, that sentiment, and we can get caught up in the energy or something. Maybe something's happened where you regret it, and you're kind of beating yourself up about it or making yourself feel guilty, which of course is a really contracted emotion, scale of consciousness, it's got to be at the bottom, versus thinking about the future too. And this is often where we go from regret about the past to hope for the future, and we can go into very idealistic energy, right, of this is my amazing outcome, and it's fun, right? It is fun to be in that energy of like, this is what's possible, but often what can happen here is we can go into destination addiction, which looks like, when I get there, then I'll be happy. And then what do we do in the meantime, right? Do we beat ourselves up, or we put more pressure on ourselves, or we go, I'm not there yet, or when am I going to get there, right? So this is why the power of the present moment is so fundamental to our happiness, because the power of the present moment is literally you going, what I have is what I want. That doesn't mean that you can't reach for more, but it also means that you're going to be happy now. You're going to be happy when you get what it is that you think you need, because there's nothing external that brings you happiness. I'm going to repeat that. There is nothing external that brings you happiness. Having a kid is not going to make you happy. Getting a partner is not going to make you happy. Making more money is not going to make you happy. Getting that amazing job is not going to make you happy. Getting whatever you think it is that you need externally is not going to make you happy. It is literally a relationship that you are having with yourself that is going to make you happy. So asking yourself, what's it going to take to be happy right now? It's a really powerful question, right? What's it going to take to be happy right now? Really great question to ask yourself if you want to be happy instantaneously is, what if nothing was wrong? Because often too we can do that as well, right? Like we're always looking for a problem so we can find the solution. So therefore we can give ourselves that kind of sense of validation that I've solved that problem, so therefore I feel good. What does it take to just feel good without having to do anything? To just be happy. That's why people advocate for meditation, right? Meditation means that you are literally learning how to refocus your attention. A lot of people think that, you've got to clear your mind and it's really hard because your mind's thinking so much. Meditation is actually a practice, and the practice is learning how to focus your attention. Because what will happen, right, is you'll meditate and you'll maybe focus on your breath, and then a thought process will come up, and then you have the realization that the thought process has come up, so therefore you bring your attention back to your breath. That is the practice of meditation, especially initially. I've been meditating for years now, and I can go into a place of no thought very quickly. But when I first started, that was definitely not the case. So if you're starting a meditation practice, keep on going and keep on showing up for it. And don't think that even if you show up and you can't stop thinking about things, that it hasn't been successful. That's not the case. I can't impress upon you enough to let you know that when it comes to spiritual development, showing up is the main thing. You have to show up. You have to go, okay, I'm here. I've showed up for myself. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm willing. I'm willing to be present to the power of God. I'm willing to be present to this universal energy. I'm willing to be present to myself. I'm willing to be present to the divinity within myself. I'm willing to be surprised and delighted by my own inner self in terms of creating a life that I love. And I'm willing to be happier than I am right now. And that's why you want to ask yourself again, is what I'm doing, what I'm creating, really contributing to a life that I really love? Does this choice contribute to my happiness? And a lot of people won't even consider that because they think that it's selfish. It is not true. It's not selfish to choose yourself. It is, and you can see where victim martyr energy comes up with people who are like constantly choosing other people and then kind of getting angry and upset that they're not happy. It's like, well, what does it take to learn how to choose yourself and fill your own cup and then be able to give to others? And I know a lot of people who really would love to do more spiritual development, but they discount themselves. And I'm talking about this in terms of Intuitive Mastery, which is the year-long program that I offer in terms of spiritual development, which is really spiritual and psychological development, i.e. how do you create this relationship with yourself where you literally have changed your perspective of reality and you can see the truth, which is that life is always working for you and you are infinitely loved and you have this amazing opportunity to celebrate your humanness and your experience of being human by deciding what it is that you're going to choose. I get that quite often. I don't know about you guys. I remember going to the United States for the first time and going into one of their supermarkets, and I was just so overwhelmed because there was a toothpaste aisle and it was just every different type of toothpaste that you could possibly imagine. And it was like, I was like overwhelmed. I was like, how do people make decisions here? Because there's so much to choose from. And that is literally probably one of the biggest, hardest things about life, is what are you choosing? You know, at this point in my life, I have chosen not to have children. I've had children a lot in other lifetimes. In fact, I think I've talked before about I had a lifetime once where I had 8 children and they all died. It was a pretty hideous past life. But, you know, in this lifetime, that's not a choice that I've made, because one of my highest values is freedom. But, you know, like if one of your highest values is freedom and you do have kids, then what choice are you going to make from that? Are you going to choose to take your kids travelling? Are you going to choose to educate them in a slightly different way? You know, again, you get to choose. And we're so fortunate, especially in New Zealand, that we have access to so many resources. If you've got access to the internet, you know, you're pretty up there in terms of the wealth of the world. Access to internet and an internet provider and a device that you can access the internet from, you are good to go. You can pretty much learn anything you need to learn to change your life, because you've got access literally to the oracle. You know, once upon a time they'd go to the Temple of Delphi, right, and they'd ask the oracle for information. You just need to ask Google, you know, how do I change my life? How do I create an online business? How do I do my personal development? How do I reach my goals? How do I transcend my own limitations? Everything is available to you. However, you know, of course, we need guidance, we need support, we need connection, we need community. If you're listening to this and you're not part of the Intuitive Life Academy, please come and join us. It's such an amazing tribe of people who are really light lovers, right? They are people who are prepared to do the work of looking at themselves. Again, it's a totally free community, but it's all about being supported in terms of your spiritual growth. Everybody needs to do that, especially women. Women transform in community, even more so, I think, than men. Like, men are kind of more work together in teams often more. You know, yes and no. I mean, like, that's a generalization, but really we need to be supported in terms of our spiritual growth, and the best way to do that is to come together as a collective and have a common goal. And the goal of the Intuitive Life Academy is help you to experience more freedom, pleasure and abundance. So if those are things that are of interest to you, then do come and join us. Find us on Facebook and come and join the tribe. I post in there every single day. I'm sending energy and love frequency into that tribe every single day to help people to raise their vibration and realize that you're way more powerful than you give yourself credit for. You have all the resources that you need. Me, as a facilitator, I just help people with the tools, right? Once you've got the tools, you have everything that you need in terms of unlocking what you need to unlock within yourself to live an extraordinary life. And, you know, your life circumstances will be contributing to that in every way. If you've had very difficult upbringing, count yourself lucky. I know, right? People are like, what? How can you say that? On a spiritual level, that means that you have asked for a lot. If you've had a terrible upbringing, you've experienced trauma, abuse, loss, grief, right, that means that you are probably perfectly positioned to do amazing work as a light worker. Right? Don't ever take your experiences for granted. They have always taught you something, whether it's patience, resilience, strength, courage, love, how to respond with kindness in situations where people are being cruel. There is always a circumstance that life is teaching you something, and some of those lessons sometimes we're like, oh my goodness, wow, you know, the universe is really invested in me because this is a tough lesson. So yeah, do come and join us, folks. You can always connect with me too. I always offer a free 25-minute consultation. You can go to www.rebeccadavison.life. I am going to be sharing more information soon. I've been making inquiries. I was going to do a retreat in Greece later this year. I will have more information for that soon. Still waiting to hear, because obviously there's no flights at the moment. And the other thing, of course, is Intuitive Mastery. That year-long program is coming up for renewal soon in September. So if you're interested in developing your spirituality, if you're curious about what it takes to do this kind of work that I do, which I must admit is incredibly incredibly fulfilling to see people step into their power and experience the joy of who they are, then do come and join us in the tribe. We'd love to connect with you. I'm sending you so much love, folks. It's great to be back in the studio. Great to come live to you. And I hope you're having an amazing day. I'm sending you lots and lots of love and many, many blessings. Bye for now. We'll see you next week. Bye.